Coming up on 20 minutes after the hour, good evening once again from our NBC News headquarters here in New York. As we said, day 1111 of this Trump administration. What a day it was. It leaves us with 273 days to go, alas, until the 2020 presidential election. Donald Trump delivered his third State of the Union address on the eve of a Senate vote to remove him from office or acquit him of the charges. It was a bizarre night. It started with what can only be described as a snub to the speaker, failing to shake Nancy Pelosi's hand when he arrived at the podium. Then there was this after the speech.
Thank you very much.
Then there was the speech and everything that transpired, including but not limited to the awarding of the Presidential Medal of Freedom to Rush Limbaugh by the First Lady in the gallery during the speech. Here for our discussion on a boisterous Tuesday night, Stephanie Ruhle, our NBC News senior business correspondent, the host of her own program on this very network. Michael Steele, former chairman of the Republican National Committee, former lieutenant governor of the great state of Maryland. He is the host of the podcast that bears his name. Doris Kearns Goodwin, presidential historian and author. She has written bestsellers about both Roosevelt's, Kennedy's, LBJ, and Lincoln, to name a few. Her latest work is appropriately titled Leadership in Turbulent Times. Eugene Robinson, Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist for The Washington Post, and among our political analysts. And in Washington, Robert Costa, national political reporter for The Washington Post, moderator of Washington Week on PBS. Robert, I'd like to begin with you because I can't help but notice the location of tonight's event over your shoulder. The reaction to what was a bizarre night to watch.
First, Republicans talking to White House officials tonight, senators and congressmen. It's clear that they believe the president's remarks were the kickoff, the formal kickoff of this phase of the 2020 election, an economic message to the suburban voters in the country, and then the pivot toward the hardline message on immigration, the awarding of the Presidential Medal of Freedom to Rush Limbaugh, speaking to voters out in different parts of the country in swing state battlegrounds as the president looks to contain his coalition for 2020. For Democrats, they see challenges here. The president is boosted by approval ratings. He is going to likely be acquitted in the Senate impeachment trial. But look beyond just all the color tonight. You saw earlier today, Speaker Pelosi, her emphasis in her news conference, health care, health care, health care. And you saw that in the governor's speech in the Democratic response. That the Democrats see as the path to power in 2020, not necessarily combating President Trump on impeachment.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.